Here's how Biden's a hypocrite.
If we should freeze federal spending, I meant Social Security as well.
Well, I meant Medicare, Medicaid, veterans benefits.
I meant Medicare and Medicaid. I meant veterans benefits. I meant every single solitary thing in the government.
He proposed it in the bill, and he fought for it year after year after year.
And I not only tried it once, I tried it twice, I tried it a third time, and I tried it a fourth time.
Yeah, what a hypocrite.
Some Republicans want Medicare and Social Security to sunset.
I've got some video footage you are not going to want to miss. If you're somebody collecting Social Security, SSI, SSDI, any of these fixed income benefits from the government, man, you're going to want to see what's been unfolding in the past 48 hours. Ever since that State of the Union address where the president called out the Republicans, there has been a ton that has been unfolding. And take a look at the latest headlines coming out. Senator Rick Scott announces a new Social Security Medicare bill amid Biden feud. And that is because that bill that he was referencing to sunset Social Security every 5 years in all federal programs was written by Rick Scott. And he's saying that it means that they want to cut out Social Security benefits. But wait till you see the video footage of what Rick Scott had to say, where he says President Biden years ago had actually proposed the exact same thing. And he calls him a giant hypocrite for bringing it up when it wasn't even in the talks, the negotiations for the debt ceiling, after Kevin McCarthy said they're not going to be making any cuts to Social Security and Medicare. Wait till you see the video footage. Now, also take a look. McConnell knocks GOP Senator Rick Scott's plan to sunset programs amid sparring over entitlements. It's just a bad idea, McConnell says. I think it will be a challenge for him to deal with this in his own re-election in Florida, a state with more elderly people than any other state in the nation. And yes, that is Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell taking shots at Rick Scott over these statements. And don't think that Rick Scott is not going to be responding to all this. Very quickly, after all this unfolded, he has released a new bill. Take a look at this press release. Senator Rick Scott announces Protect Our Seniors Act to preserve and protect Social Security and Medicare. And let me know your thoughts on this. I think he needed to respond right away because he's kind of being painted as the bad guy now, as President Joe Biden called him out in that speech, even after all the talks with him and Kevin McCarthy had said there would be no cuts. He shouts out Republicans, say they want to cut it. Now Republicans are getting mad at Rick Scott because he's the one that proposed it. And now he has released a new bill to clarify his stances on funding for Social Security and Medicare and federal programs. And we also heard Biden say, if you don't believe it, contact my office. Well, Senator Rick Scott is saying you don't need to contact his office. Go to rescueamerica.com and you can see for yourself what it is that he believes should be done with all federal programs. Now, let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. We're going to be taking a look at the video footage so you can see it for yourself. You can see his response, see what President Joe Biden had to say literally decades ago, which they're saying is almost the exact same thing that Rick Scott had to say. And also, this is just opinion. I just want to clarify what is actually facts and news and what is my personal opinion. And that is, you can let me know if you agree with me or not. When you take a look at what Rick Scott has just proposed, it looks like a messaging bill, in my opinion. Not very thought out. There's only 3 points, and all it is clarifying that he does not want to cut benefits, but it doesn't look like a real bill, a solution. Nothing deals with the solvency, in my personal opinion. I think he's just trying to show everybody, hey, I don't want to cut it. I'm not the bad guy here. And he's also bringing up the past of Joe Biden, which could be considered a reasonable response, taking into consideration the fact that McCarthy had literally said about a week earlier before the State of the Union address, there will be no cuts. And then President Joe Biden brought up a bill from before that wasn't even in the negotiations from a year ago. And now they're saying, well, let's go back even further. And you can see Biden before was saying the exact same thing. So, man, let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. But let's take a look at this, get you caught up on the latest. And also stick around to the end, because if you missed all the drama in the State of the Union address, which I don't know how you could, it is viral right now, I'm going to share with you a resource on that. Also, happy Super Bowl Sunday. Let me know who you think's going to win if you're going to be watching the game with the family. And also, let me know if you're going to be heading out to church after this video like I am right now, you guys. But with that being said, let's go ahead and dive right in. Before we do me a quick favor. Smash the like button if you appreciate the updates. Hit subscribe to stay up to date. I'll let you know everything that's unfolding. And yes, there's going to be a lot this year with Social Security. I'll keep you up to date every step of the way. But with that being said, you guys, let's go ahead and dive right in.
Instead of making the wealthy pay their fair share, some Republicans want Medicare and Social Security to sunset. I'm not saying it's a majority.
Well, some reaction there, doubling down on that debunked claim that Republicans want to end your Medicare and Social Security. President calling out my next guest by name yesterday when he was on the road in Wisconsin. That man is Florida Senator Rick Scott. And sir, good morning to you. Thank you for joining our program today. You've been in the middle of this from the very beginning. Clarify what your idea was, because it wasn't just Medicare or Social Security. You wanted to look at everything. As a businessman, that's probably where you're coming from. Go ahead.
I did it as governor. You do it in business all the time. You go back and look. If you did something, you say, okay, did it work? So I said in my plan I put out, you can go to rescueamerica.com. I said, look, let's look at every program every 5 years. There's a lot of programs that we shouldn't be doing up here. And then if it's worth keeping, we keep it. You know, we do this with the defense budget every year. We don't pass a 20-year defense budget. Every year we do it. We do it every year. We pass the National Defense Authorization Act. I also said we ought to tell the American public how we're going to preserve Medicare and Social Security. But here's how Biden's a hypocrite. He wants to say Republicans want to cut Medicare and Social Security. I never will do that. I'm not going to cut their benefits. But guess what? Joe Biden proposed it. He proposed a bill when he was in the Senate to sunset everything. And I don't know if you've seen the quote. He says, when I argued that we should freeze federal spending, I meant Social Security as well. I meant Medicare, Medicaid, veterans benefits. I meant every single solitary thing in the government. Mm-hmm. That's what Joe Biden said.
Right. Yeah, now, let me get to that in a moment. I was 28 years ago, and we got something that'll remind you of that. But what he also said on Tuesday night, anyone who doubts it, contact my office. I'll give you a copy of the proposal. Now, was that true or is that a lie?
I hope he gives everybody a copy, but you can do it online. You go to rescueamerica.com. You can look at it. I put out my ideas. I think everybody ought to. I want to make sure we balance this budget and we preserve Medicare and Social Security. If we keep going down the path we're going down, where we run in $2 trillion deficits, there's no federal program that we're going to be able to preserve. And I want to preserve all the safety nets that our American citizens care about.
I get it. The other day you tweeted he rambled for a while. He was confused. But I'm asking you whether or not he was telling the truth. Was he? Was it a partial truth or was it a lie?
It's a lie. The guy's been lying, the whole time. And I've called him a liar. He's coming to Florida. I'll be in Florida tonight. I put an ad up saying, not only did this guy lie, he actually didn't pay his Medicare taxes on his income after he was vice president. He used a loophole to not even pay his Medicare taxes. This guy's a complete hypocrite.
Okay, you talked about 1995. I believe that was your reference. Here was the clip from back then, Senator Biden.
When I argued that we should freeze federal spending, I meant Social Security as well. I meant Medicare and Medicaid. I meant veterans benefits. I meant every single solitary thing in the government. And I not only tried it once, I tried it twice, I tried it a third time, and I tried it a fourth time.
That kind of sounds like what
a
you're
hypocrite
asking for now.
Yeah, what a hypocrite. Here's a guy, maybe he doesn't even remember what he said before, but he had a bill to sunset everything. And he tried. He tried for years to do it. And then he wants to accuse Republicans. I don't know one Republican that wants to reduce Social Security or Medicare benefits. We want to preserve them. And that's why we've got to figure out how we get a balanced budget here. And I'm going to fight like hell to do that.
All right.
Man, so there you have it. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. As you can see, years ago, looks like Joe Biden had kind of said the same thing, and he said it a little bit even more aggressive than we heard from Rick Scott. Now, let's take a look at Rick Scott's proposal very quickly so you can see. And like I said, I personally don't know that this is going to be getting a whole lot of traction. I feel like this is more of just like a messaging bill to let people know, hey, I'm not the bad guy. I actually want us to have Social Security, but I just want to evaluate the funding so that way we can have a little bit more fiscal responsibility. And it says, Senator Rick Scott announces to Protect Our Seniors Act to preserve and protect Social Security and Medicare, putting in the title, Preserve and Protect Social Security. Now, today at a roundtable discussion with Florida community leaders and seniors in the Sun City Center, Senator Rick Scott announces his Protect Our Seniors Act to preserve and protect Social Security and Medicare. During the roundtable, Senator Scott discusses his work to protect seniors from Washington's Biden's dysfunction and the pain caused by President Joe Biden's raging inflation crisis, the 2 years of failed leadership that have endangered critical entitlement programs and pushed Social Security and Medicare closer to insolvency. Now, I'm just going to go ahead and scroll down past all this stuff and get to the points here. Senator Scott's Protect Our Seniors Act includes 3 key provisions to protect benefits of Social Security and Medicare and promote a long-term solvency of these critical programs. Number 1, it rescinds funding from the Inflation Reduction Act for 87,000 new IRS agents and redirects those funds to the Medicare and Social Security Administration Trust Fund to help shore up the solvency of each program. And so what he's saying is that they want to take the money that was meant to go to the IRS and provide additional agents, take that back, and they're going to be using that, it says, to help out with Social Security and Medicare. And I think that's about $80 billion, if I remember correctly off the top of my head, which I'm hearing that is probably not going to be enough to really resolve the issue. It might be a temporary fix. So in my opinion, that's not going to be probably a real solution here, unless they're going to be able to put that money to some sort of system or program that is going to be fixing things. To me, this is just something that maybe he drafted up in the last 24, 48 hours, if I'm being honest, because I think this is him responding to all of the negativity that's coming out of Congress against him. So point number 2, creates a budget point of order and requires a 2/3 vote against any legislation that the Congressional Budget Office determines would reduce or cut existing Medicare and Social Security benefits. So right there in number 2, he's saying, I don't want to cut it, and we're going to need a full majority in Congress, 2/3 agreement, to pass anything that would say we want to cut or reduce Social Security and Medicare, basically saying that it's not going to happen. And number 3, amends the CBO scoring laws such that savings to Medicare cannot be used to offset or pay for spending outside of Medicare. So in other words, they're not going to be touching any of the funds, borrowing from it for other items. Those are the 3 points that he has provided, and that's essentially what he has drafted up recently. And in my opinion, again, this does not deal with enhancements to Social Security like we see in the Social Security Expansion Act, which is going to be reintroduced here very soon, we're hearing, and bumps up all Social Security recipients across the board's benefits by $200 with the exception of SSI. We're going to be waiting to see what happens if there's a new revision to the Expansion Act that includes them, because it was not included in the legislation text back in 2022. Also, it doesn't deal with the CPI data, the CPIE or CPIW, for which they calculate the COLA increases. Doesn't address how they're going to be doing taxation to increase the solvency long term. There's a lot of pieces in here that I feel like are missing. So in my personal opinion, this is probably not going to be addressing a lot of the issues that need to be talked about and discussed for Social Security. And I think this is more so a messaging bill from Rick Scott. And let me know your thoughts. Do you think that this helps you with Rick Scott and say, okay, he has now vocalized, he does not want to cut it, he is not going to be pushing for this? Or do you think, no, he's just trying to cover up, but he actually does want to cut things and he probably will come back and try to cut those benefits? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. But that is the legislation that just came out from Rick Scott, and you heard from him earlier, and we also heard Biden before was saying the exact same thing. So that is the latest coming out on Social Security. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. I will keep you up to date. We're expecting to see that Social Security Expansion Act coming out, along with likely a lot of other pieces of legislation to address everything going on with that. Now, also in addition to that, tax season is coming up, and I've got some updates for you on taxation that you're not going to want to miss, as we just recently heard an announcement from the IRS regarding taxation on a federal level for state stimulus checks that just came out. So if you missed that video, check it out right here, along with the State of the Union address and all the chaos that took place over Social Security. So check those out. Also, again, let me know who you think is going to win the Super Bowl. And you guys, thank you so much for joining me this Sunday. I'll catch you in the next one. Have a blessed day. Take care. God bless. This is Steve.